Affordable, good quality smartphones are becoming a lot more common, but finding one without any major compromises isn't quite as easy. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Meizu M2 Note. I'm Nicole Scott from Mobile Geeks, and let's dive right in. The Meizu M2 Note is 5.5 inches with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 on an IGZO LCD panel from Sharp, which is amazing quality and well above its price point. Powering this phablet, we have a 64-bit octa-core processor by MediaTek alongside 2 GB of RAM. It's dual SIM 4G LTE with the option to use the second slot for expandable storage via micro SD card. The camera offers 13 megapixels on the rear and 5 megapixels on the front. It's running Android Lollipop with Meizu's Flyme 4.5 on top. It's got a 3,100 mAh battery and weighs in at 149 grams. Made from a single piece of polycarbonate plastic, the M2 Note doesn't feel budget. In hand, it actually feels similar to the iPhone 5C. In this case, plastic doesn't mean feeling cheap. Taking a look at design, let's compare it to the M1 Note so you can see exactly how it's evolved. Still 5.5 inches, but it's gotten a little bit thinner. And the power button has moved from the top to the left-hand side. Now we have the micro SD card support, and they've added a physical home button to the front, which is a big improvement. The processor is about 25% slower, but that's not really noticeable in everyday use, except when you're opening large apps. If I had to choose, I'd go with the M Note 2 because it feels polished with the same stand-up camera as its predecessor, and it's only $170 versus $200. There's actually links to Amazon in the description below if you're keen to pick one of these up. The display is absolutely stunning. We have an IGZO display, 1080p. The blacks are incredibly black. If you check out the sides, you can barely tell the difference between the black display and the edges. Another addition from the M1 Note is in the display section, you can actually adjust the color temperature. So if you like your display a little bit warmer or cooler, you can actually do that right here. So one of the problems with this particular device is that this was actually meant for China and it didn't come loaded with all the Google services. So this says this app requires the latest version. I say install. But even though I get an error message, the game still fires up and works fine. I also tried out Airborne 8, which is pretty graphically intensive, and it ran absolutely no problem. After about 5 minutes of straight gameplay, it wasn't really that warm either. Big games like this one are where you're going to notice that it's on a slower processor, but not in gameplay, but in the time it takes to open the app. Overall, larger apps take a noticeably longer time to open. But if you don't mind waiting, other than that, the performance isn't really impacted. If you're a benchmark person, you can see that this is a mid-range device with mid-range performance and really isn't anything special. So taking a look at the software, there's actually a lot going on with Flyme 4, and there's a lot of shortcuts that aren't necessarily as intuitive as other OSs, so it does take a while to get used to this. Now, there are some great gestures from the lock screen. So drawing an O, I've set that to pre-launch the camera. Now, some other ones, I swipe up to unlock. From this screen, I can swipe left, and I've actually set this to hear maps. Now, taking a look at the operating system, initially I was always kind of like, where's the back button? Why are there no Android navigation buttons? But you actually can use the touchpad as a back button. So let's just head into the gallery to demonstrate this. So then let's open this photo and then this photo. So if I just swipe across, I can actually go back. If you pull up from the bottom, this is your entire, or all the apps that were recently opened. So you just can clear them like that. Now, one of the things about Flyme that I find so aggravating, and I have no idea why they don't just add this in, is the settings. So it actually is an icon. If I pull down the notification bar, and then I pull this down again, there's actually even a free space right there where they could put settings in. It's so frustrating. The notification bar is rather nice, because you can tap on these, and then you can actually select stuff. So you don't need to go into a secondary menu, and I think that that's just fantastic. Now, the brightness on this display is actually very good. Like I've mentioned before, the IGZO display is awesome. So let's just take a look at the settings. If you're using it with one hand and you can't reach the top, you can actually pull down. If you don't know what the icons are, you can pull them out for more descriptions. So all the cool stuff is actually here in accessibility. So gesture wake up. These are all the different things that you can do, and you can customize each of these gestures for specific applications. So you just turn that on, and then you select whatever it is that you want that to do. If we head back, Smart Touch is that little button, but you can actually customize the Smart Touch this time, which is actually very nice. So a double click can pull down the screen or close something, or sliding up goes to the lock screen. So the Smart Touch button is actually a lot more intuitive now because you can actually customize it. But just because there are some Google issues doesn't mean that all the apps don't work. I actually just went to play and then downloaded them all. While we're here in YouTube, I'm just going to give you a bit of a volume test. So we have the single speaker down here on the bottom. And I'm not sure if you can hear that. It's always difficult in videos to do these, but it sounds a little bit distorted. And then the other problem is that if you notice when I was gaming, it's quite easy to cover up the single speaker here on the bottom. Now the camera is one of the things that I find most impressive about this. It's a $175 phone on Amazon right now, and it takes pretty decent pictures. Now to scroll through, you can actually just pull down the screen, so this brings you to a manual mode. So you can actually choose your focal length as well. Beauty mode, which a lot of phones have this now, beautification. Panorama, light field. Now this is one of the things here. Let's just take this one photo and tap around. Now that's the thing that bugs me about this, is that the exposure swing is really big. Like really big. Look at that. Oh, unfortunate. QR code scan, that's actually pretty nice. That's built right into the camera. So there's a lot of, like really intuitive, smart things about this. This is slow motion. And then we just have auto. You can add filters on directly. And if we head into settings, we can turn HDR on here. We can put in grid lines. Let's just take a look at a few shots that I have taken on this camera. I just took this one. When we zoom in, there's very little distortion on that. It's rather clear. Here's a bar that I was at last night, very dark. That's a nighttime shot of the Parliament building here in Taiwan. Here's a swimming pool that I go swimming at all the time. I mean, like, it could be a little bit sharper, but for $170, I think it's pretty good. It's a photo of my dog, quite dark. Here's another bar where I was trying to take a photo of this one, and I have some comparison shots with the iPhone 6. The Meizu M2 Note is a great deal at $170. The build, display, and camera are well above this price point, and it has all-day battery life with moderate use. And if you're a heavy user, you'll be able to get home late and still have battery for your taxi ride. So what's the downside? Well, the speaker quality could be a lot better. The Google services aren't perfect. I think the GPS could be, well, a smidge more accurate. And if you have a lot of large apps you want to open, like some of those big games, it will take you a little bit longer. But for $170, I think those are some pretty fair compromises, especially when you count how good the battery life and camera are on this really budget device. So if you are looking to pick one up, just check the description below and you will find a few links to Amazon. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, why don't you do that? And if you haven't, why don't you like this video? I'm your host, Nicole Scott for Mobile Geek.